Welcome to Dragon House Studios at the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains for Triggered. I am, of course, your hostess with the mostest, Michael Bain, and winter's getting ready to come down hard here in the high country in Colorado. We're getting ready for that. But today I want to talk about something I've been watching on television because it's kind of funny. It's a show on Netflix and it's called Win the Wilderness. It's a British show. So the idea is there's an elderly couple in Alaska. They have a 5-acre homestead in the middle of nowhere, no roads, fly in. It's a homestead that they carved out of the wilderness over this course of decades. But they've reached an age where they have to give it up. So the contest is for 6 couples from Britain to see who gets to stay in the state. They're not throwing them off the island, they're throwing them out of the state. Who's going to win the homestead and live there in backcountry Alaska? One of the things that caught my eye was here are these couples from Britain where, they don't got no self-defense. They don't got no guns. They don't even have sharpened pencils in Britain anymore. So they got these 6 couples. As soon as they land, they say, the organizers, the survival specialists say, this is bear spray. Great big cans of bear spray. You must have it on your person all the time because Alaska is crawling with bears. Black bears, great big brown grizzly bears, etc. And showed them how to spray it. But what caught my eye was the survival specialists, the pilots of the bush planes, the wives of the pilots of the bush planes. Every single one of them was carrying serious big pistol hardware. Every single one of them was carrying it in a chest holster of some kind. That was kind of interesting. I saw one guy had a hip holster, but he only had it on once, and the next time you saw him, right here. Now, I recognized a lot of those big guns in those holsters. They wisely didn't give them to the Brits, who would probably only hurt themselves. But it reminded me that when gun guys get together, one of the things they love to talk about is bears. It's even that great meme, right? It's like, you have nothing to fear but fear itself, except for bears. And bears will kill you. People love to talk about carrying bear guns. What are you going to carry to defend yourself against bears? Even though the likelihood of them seeing a bear is pretty much on par to seeing an Antifa guy in Idaho shopping at a gun store. So, it's still something we love to talk about. And here at the Secret Hidden Bunker, we are in bear country. There are bears around here. They qualify as great big hairy nuisances. If a bear visits your kitchen, you just spent $20,000 in remodeling because the bear does not watch the Food Channel. It says, wonk. So I hauled out some of the guns that I saw in Win the Wilderness. And I talk about them because I have carried them for bear protection. I spent a lot of time in the backcountry, been in Alaska, I think 4 times, 3 in the winter. Sucks, but let's take a quick look. In fact, I've got my own 3 bears here, right? I've got the 3 little Ruger bears because I like Rugers. So bear gun number 1, and by far and away the most accessible of these monsters, is this guy right here. It's a GP100 stainless steel and 44 special. It is no longer available from Ruger, dropped out of the catalog this year. If you didn't get one, shame on you. The reason you didn't get one is nobody but me, John Taffin, and 10 of our closest friends ever buys 44 special stuff. That's why it's off the catalog. But if you look at something like this, like Buffalo Boar, heavy 44 special, and by heavy it means the 200, it's a classic Keith load, right? 255 grain semi-wad cutter driven at 1,000 feet per second. It's bear protection of sorts. But it's better than harsh language, certainly. That's a fairly hot load, but this is a little 5-shot gun, and it's pretty easy to shoot. There's a caveat that I wanted just to mention to you with 44s. For some reason, the 44 Specials, the 44 Russians, I have found they're dirtier cartridges than a lot of others, say the 357 family, and what will happen often with the 44s is you're going to get gunk underneath the star. And when you get gunk underneath the star, the cartridge itself is not seating all the way, and it will be hard to close the cylinder. It's something you need to watch out for. But all in all, This is a good packing pistol in the back country. Now, things get bigger, harsher, more fierce, much like the Bears. This is a 44 Magnum Redhawk. It is the best 44 Magnum Redhawk I've ever owned. I think I have 3 now, but this one is a great gun. It was rebuilt by Hamilton Bowen. It was designed around this round. And we're going to talk about that when Truggered returns.
The revolutionary TCM from Rock Island Armory. Fire it once and you'll be hooked. The first thing you'll notice is its sonic boom and enormous muzzle flash as it hurls the exclusive Armscore 22 TCM round downrange at a blistering 2,000 feet per second with penetrating impact. It shoots surprisingly easy with light recoil. The 17-round TCM series. So fun to shoot, it's like a thrill ride, only better.
Welcome back to Truggered, where I'm going to show you Mama Bear. Remember, we got 3 Little Bear guns. First one, 44 Special GP100. That's Baby Bear. Mama Bear is his 44 Magnum Redhawk. As I said before, this gun was rebuilt by Hamilton Bowen around this round. That particular round is the Garrett Wham Bam Slam 310 grain Defender, which 310 grain, of course, is a heavy for caliber load with the 44 Magnum. But specifically, this was designed for bears. It is Ashley Emerson, who owns Garrett Cartridge, says the #1 defensive bear cartridge in the entire world. Whether that's true or not, I believe every word Ashley says. But it is a powerful load coming out of a short barrel 44 Magnum. And I think you can see that here. My favorite part of shooting this gun is when you hit my steel, my heavyweight rifle steel. It actually hummed as if you'd actually struck a tuning fork in the heart of the earth. It made so much noise. But to me, this is an absolute go-to, carry this sucker around. And I carry it with the Garrett cartridges. It's right dead on, sighted in for those cartridges. It's not a long-range shoot-'em-up gun. It is a close-up defensive gun. I've typically carried it in this guy, which is from Gunfighters Inc. It's a Kydex holster. It's a little bit easier to get to it quicker. The other holster that I typically will carry these guns in is one of these. This is, of course, from Simply Rugged Leather, Rob Leahy. And Simply Rugged was founded in Alaska. Rob Leahy started out making these pancake holsters at the request of people who were carrying great big guns like this to face off against bears if that came to it. So to me, it's like a perfect gun for any of these, a perfect holster for any of these fairly heavyweight guns. It carries surprisingly well. It offers a fairly high level of protection for the gun, which is a big deal if you're in heavy brush like in Alaska. So this guy is a solid thumper. Now let's go to Papa Bear. This is Papa Bear. It is a Ruger Alaskan in .454 Casull. It is a gun that my good friend, my dear friend and mentor, late Walt Rouse, said after firing 2 rounds through it, said this gun could make God flinch. And he's right. It is among the hardest hitting firearms I've ever shot. And I've shot pretty much all of them, 10-bore pistols on down. This gun is a handful. Even with these great Hogue grips, these Hogue grips, they've got a little bit of sorbethane in the very back to take some of the hit. But the load that you would carry, let's say you were going to Alaska, and let's say you were going to Alaska in spring when the bears are waking up and they are genuinely, profoundly pissed off, would be this guy. That is also from Garrett, from Ashley Emerson. It is a 365 grain hard cast hammerhead bullet. And it is designed to drive through a train. It is about as hard a hit as you can lay on any animal that walks the earth. Coming out of this gun, it is a handful, and I seriously mean that. It is not something that you would take lightly. And I will say this again. I know none of you viewers would do this, but this is not a gun and a load that you hand to anyone who's not experienced in handling these big cartridges, because you will end up picking the hammer out of their forehead. It's not a good thing. You can see this gun break my grip. When I shoot this gun, it's like shooting the deagle. I've got a death grip on it. Boy, oh boy, I've got Mr. Death Grip. I can take it, but every time you can see it slightly break my wrist because there's so much power in this load. To me, if I am in Alaska and I am in a situation where I cannot carry a long gun, and in Win the Wilderness, you saw some of the guides carrying 45-70 Marlins. Why? Because 45-70 Marlins with Garrett Buffalo bore loads, double tap loads, will in fact stop a train. So this would be my choice, but it's a choice only in the sense that it's so powerful, you gotta shoot it. That's why God made gloves. You need, when you shoot these killers, you've gotta use a recoil glove to take some of the heat off of your own hand. Typically, I may shoot a few of the really super heavyweight guys and then focus on quote-unquote lighter, say 260 grain, 454. 454 is still a bear. When I've carried this gun in backcountry carry, it has been in this holster, which once again is from Rob Leahy. It's simply rugged. It is a great holster for this gun. It works perfectly. You can carry 6 additional rounds in it. I don't carry the gigantic super deluxe killer bear busters. These are Winchester hunting rounds for 454. They're not chopped liver, but on the other hand, they're not going to break your wrist either. Once again, sort of, I think jacketed hollow point silver tip type. The reason I carry them is they're accurate. Is I like them as an accurate round. If I was going to shoot something from a moose on down to a small animal, predator, wolf, anything like that, certainly the 365s will work, but so will these guys, and it won't leave you like totally wounded. So check out Win the Wilderness on Netflix. You'll find it interesting, and Alaska is always beautiful. In my trips to Alaska, I have loved every trip. At the same time, I'm pretty glad I don't necessarily live there, especially around the end of February. So hang on, when Truggered returns, I got a new gun to show you, at least new to me, and we're going to talk about that and its holster. This week's Truggered is brought to you by Franklin Armory, the home of innovation in firearms. Volquartsen, engineering the world's best rimfires. Taurus, USA, designed to protect. And Revolution Targets, 21st century steel. Welcome back to Truggered, where we're going to go from great big now to little bitty. You're not totally little bitty, but much, much smaller. This is a gun that I made the decision to purchase. It is a Ruger LCR, their light compact revolver. This one is in .327 Magnum. Now, the reason I chose to purchase it has to do with the number of holes there in it. It holds 6 rather than 5. Typically the LCRs, 38 Special 5, 357 5, 9mm 5, 327 holds 6. The other thing is I actually like the 327 cartridge. It will give you, as my friend Ken Jorgensen from Ruger said, it will give you, say, 75–80% of a 357 with about 50 to 60% of the recoil. Now, that doesn't mean that this doesn't recoil. It's a pretty lightweight gun. This particular one has the Hogues on it. I hate the finger grooves, but on the other hand, it's got that little bit of sorbothane pad there. And you can see in shooting this gun, the 327 does bark. And I wanted to give you some sort of comparison that you could use, so I hauled out this guy. This is the Charter Arms Professional, and it is a 7-shot revolver in .32 H&R Magnum. If you remember the whole .32 saga, there was .32, .32 long, then 60s, H&R created the 32 H&R Magnum. It's a little bit longer, so it won't fit in the old guns. And then Ruger, in conjunction with I believe Federal, developed the 327 Magnum, which once again is a little bit longer, so it doesn't fit in little guns like this. So I wanted to show you the comparison. I shot, out of this gun, I shot buffalo bore heavy 32 H&R Magnum. And the difference is they're both 100 grain bullets here. This 100 grain bullet is doing maybe, I don't know, 150, 200 feet per second less than the 100 grain bullet here. I think the standard 327 100 grain bullet is like, I don't know, 1,200, 1,300 feet per second, fast enough that it's really clocking along. Now, once again, I have no idea whether I was shooting a Federal American Eagle. Typically, when I've carried 327s, and I have several of them, I have a single 7, a Ruger single 7, the model that was designed by Richard Mann, my good friend Richard. And I've carried that in backcountry with the 327s. What I've carried there is the Buffalo Bore Hot Plus P 327 Magnums, but that's a little larger, a little bit heavier gun. But I do like the LCR for snub carry, and I've carried one off and on for years. Usually my 9mm, because it loads off a moon clip, and I have not, in the course of many, many rounds through my LCR 9mm, seen any instances of the bullet pulling out, which will lock up the gun. Some of my friends, including John Farnham, one of the best instructors in the world, has seen that. I think it has to do with which ammo you choose. So I have settled on, in the little guns, Hornady Critical Duty, and that's the main round that I put through my 9mm LCR, and I haven't seen any bullet pulling from it. I also wanted to show you what I consider maybe the greatest IWB revolver holster ever made. And this is from PHLSTER holsters. It's their City Special. And it's designed to carry appendix, because go back and look at some of the old cop films, some of the 70s. You see cops with revolvers, or you see them sometimes with Browning high powers if you're Serpico, but there's always a snub revolver stuffed in their belt, in an appendix type position. This holster was designed for that. It'll work just as easily back behind your hip, but I like it because, to me, it is designed just exactly right. It sets down, look at how well it's cut away here, because on a snub, one of the big issues in a snub is getting an absolute rock solid grip at the point that you pull this out of the holster. And this holster is designed, John Hauptman figured out, okay, it needs to be this way so you can get a great grip on it. It needs to come up and cover and protect the gun, and it needs to ride fairly low, which it does. So anyway, this will probably be my backup snub. This will probably be the holster that it's in. I thought you guys might want to see that. So that's kind of it for this week. And this is, in fact, the last show of 2020. Thank God. Is the year ever going to end? We like to take the last 2 weeks of the year off in the hopes of survival. But we will be back. First week of January, we'll be back right there in 2021. And we are hoping, as my friend Crystal Gale once said, we're waiting for the times to get better. You can find us on michaelbain.tv. You can find us on YouTube. When you go to YouTube, hit subscribe. Bing, that great big red button below. And we will have a great big announcement for you that first week of January, and somewhere else you can find us, and people you're going to recognize. Thank you for joining us. Please have a very Merry Christmas, have a very safe New Year, and next year is going to be just super.